Hey, do you love a good story? Great. Then you got to check out the #Storytime podcast. Each episode brings you the craziest, creepiest, and cringiest stories from YouTube, TikTok, Reddit, and beyond.
I'm gonna die. Chad could already be dead, or either he was smart and didn't come down anyways.
So at a quick glance, when I was turning off the light, I saw this thing in my kitchen, and it was kind of peeping out over to me.
Question is, name something that everyone knows the size of on their body.
Look, the internet is a dumpster full of stories, and I, your host, Will McFadden, dive in head first, sift through the flaming trash, and bring you nothing but treasures.
I was like, oh, right. That would be a really bad way to tell somebody that their brother died.
I swear this happened in slow motion. The champagne flute fell into the lap of Halle Berry, completely drenching her.
Listen to all 21 episodes of #Storytime now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Labor Day event's here at Gap Factory and GapFactory.com. Shop 40 to 70% off almost everything. Plus, tanks from $5, shorts from $10, and jeans from $20. Through September 7th at Gap Factory and GapFactory.com.
Ride Tex Rail to and from Grape Fest all day for half price. Texas wine. Come and taste it at Grapevine's 35th Annual Grape Fest, a Texas wine experience presented by Bank of the West. September 16th through the 19th. Taste wines from Texas, South Australia's Barossa Valley, and Napa Valley. Enjoy live music from Berlin, Asia, and other artists, plus Champagne Terrace, Grape Stomp, carnival rides, and a dedication ceremony for the new Peace Circle sculpture. Ride Tex Rail to Grape Fest all day for half price. Visit grapefest.com for tickets today. Ride Tex Rail to and from Grape Fest all day for half price. Texas wine. Come and taste it at Grapevine's 35th Annual Grape Fest, a Texas wine experience presented by Bank of the West. September 16th through the 19th. Taste wines from Texas, South Australia's Barossa Valley, and Napa Valley. Enjoy live music from Berlin, Asia, and other artists, plus Champagne Terrace, Grape Stomp, carnival rides, and a dedication ceremony for the new Peace Circle sculpture. Ride Tex Rail to Grape Fest all day for half price. Visit grapefest.com for tickets today.
Hi there, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey today. I'm your host, K-Town, and you're listening to Mysterious Radio. Tonight, I'm going to be releasing an old interview. This is one of my very first interviews that I had the pleasure of doing when I started the show back in 2016. And the story is about Deborah Moffett and her family. There are 2 books that you can still obtain on Amazon. One of them is called A Deadly Haunting, based on a true story told by Deborah Moffett, and Unwelcomed, the true story of the Moffett family haunting. Both of those are available on Amazon. The Moffetts were a typical American family until the caregiver of their ailing grandmother performed an ancient ritual intended for healing, but instead unleashing a powerful and terrifying demon, one of the 7 princes of the devil himself. Their lives would be torn apart as the malevolent entity haunted and tormented them for 8 years, even following them outside their home. Dozens of notable light workers came to rid them of this powerful, evil monster, but to no avail. A promise of revenge from a past life was the bridge that brought him here, and the secret permission of one family member was what allowed him to stay. When the demon set his sinister intentions on an unholy, deadly blood sacrifice and the taking of an eternal soul, the family must fight for sanity, life, and salvation. This book is based on a true story and proves that reality can be stranger and more horrific than fiction. And you can get the book A Deadly Haunting, based on the true story by Deborah Moffett, on Amazon. And now, here's my special guest and one of my favorite past interviews, Deborah Moffett.
Well, this happened it started back in 1987 with me, because that's when I moved to California and I met my husband and married him. So I didn't come into the story until 1987, but there things happened before that. But I can't attest to them because I wasn't with them, so I can't tell you if they were true or not, just hearsay.
Okay.
But in 1987, things started to happen, and after I called him Mr. Entity, when he left, till my husband and my mother-in-law died, we never spoke about it. We told each other we would not bring it up. We would not talk about it, partly because my mother-in-law was very frightened that it would bring it back. So we kept it secret for over 25 years, never spoke about it. Now, when my mother-in-law died and my husband passed away, I found in the closet a box of pictures. We had documented the haunting for the 6 years that he was here. We had thrown most of the stuff away because people that would come to try to help us would tell us it was like a yo-yo. One person would say, now document everything, take pictures of everything so we know what's happening. They couldn't help us. So then the next person would come and they'd say, I want you to get rid of all the pictures, all the documentation, because by doing this, you're keeping it here. So then we'd throw everything away. Well, when Mr. Entity finally left, I thought we had thrown everything away. My husband had saved pictures, which I didn't know about. So after he died and I was cleaning the closet, I found the box of pictures. Now, these were only a few pictures. There's like 300 pictures. But that was only a few compared to what we had taken over the years. But at that time, I was free to tell everyone what had happened, because although this was an absolutely terrifying thing that happened, I was never afraid of it. So I wanted to tell everybody what had happened. It would be the first time I was able to even tell my children, who were adults at that time, what had happened. They didn't even know. We had never even told them what was going on at that time.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So I discussed with them. I showed them the pictures. I told them everything that had happened, and I told them, I really want to tell everybody what, to explain this situation, because I think people need to know that there are things that go bump in the night. I mean, you need to know about this. So we agreed to have the book written about it.
Wow. Well, I want to say that I find you to be a very courageous woman, and I appreciate you telling the story, because, I mean, this is what I happen to do for a living, is talk about these types of experiences, but this is very, very educational, and it's therapeutic. It's therapeutic for you, so that's more important, of course.
It is. It actually does. It makes me feel good to tell people about this.
Absolutely. Now, I want to ask you, prior to this happening to you, Deborah, did you or your family experience anything paranormal at all?
Well, a couple of things, but, at the time they didn't see, other than I did see a ghost. But other than that, there were one time my sister and I were driving in a car, and we had a disconnected phone in the car. It was just a phone we were transporting from one place to another, and it started ringing.
Oh, wow.
That was strange. And like I said, I did see a ghost at Fort Oswego. But other than that, no. I mean, the paranormal to me was something that you saw on TV or you were, in the movies. It was like fantasy. I wasn't a believer or non-believer. I was kind of open to it.
Like most people, I think. I mean, people watch it and don't feel about it one way or the other. So I totally understand your point of view. Now, your connection with Joey Albert, how did that come about exactly?
Actually, I didn't even know Joey. A friend of mine, Steve Reduff, who's a writer and an actor, he was having a book written, and he said she is a ghostwriter. She'll write things for you, and I wanted this to be put in print, so I contacted her and we spoke about it, and I hired her to write the story. So I gave her all the information, and we sat down and talked, and I showed her the pictures, because the pictures are absolutely, you have to see the pictures to believe them. So then she wrote it, and she went on a few radio stations with me, and very nice lady. But she never experienced anything, but she did document it for me.
Wow. You guys, you can learn more about this case and see photos, and even better, buy this book, because I guarantee you it's going to be one of the most frightening tales of any haunting that you've ever heard. And to do that, all you got to do is go to adeadlyhaunting.com. Now, right off the bat, did you feel like Joey would be the best one to tell your story?
Do you know what? I don't know if I can actually say that. I think I was so excited just to tell the story that I just wanted it written. So maybe there would have been someone better out there that had knowledge or previous experience with the paranormal that would write it on a different perspective. But I think I just wanted it written. So, and she was a very nice lady. So she had qualifications of being a writer. So I think that was more why I chose her than anything else.
Well, not to say anything bad about Joey, because she did a wonderful job, by the way. However, most people, especially with a story such as yours, they want to shop different authors, and you chose her right off the bat. But, that's great. I just wanted to get your mindset.
Do you know what I think
that.
It was? I don't think I was there thinking, well, which one's going to make me the most money? Who could get the... I wasn't even thinking that. I was thinking, who can get this story out and let people understand what went on?
Right. Okay.
That's why I chose her.
Fair enough. Just to be clear now, you were not there at the beginning of this ordeal, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so let's start with what you learned that had been happening prior to your arrival, if you don't mind.
No, just a few things, because they didn't get into it much. I arrived in 1987. Before that, there had been things happening, like their grandmother had died, and things happened after she died. One thing, especially, this is the thing that I remember Bill talking about, because my husband was petrified of the paranormal, so this always stuck in his head. They hired a Guatemalan housekeeper for my mother-in-law's mother. That was my husband's grandmother. They lived right next door to each other, okay. My mother-in-law's family and her mother. Grandmother had a stroke, so they hired a Guatemalan housekeeper. She didn't speak English.
The average organization uses 110 SaaS apps. How do you manage your rapidly growing SaaS environment? Thousands of IT customers use Better Cloud to automate processes and policies across their cloud app portfolio. With 88 5-star reviews on G2, Better Cloud is the most reviewed and beloved SaaS management platform used by IT departments to centralize the administration of their most common apps. Visit bettercloud.com to learn more.
Hey, do you love a good story? Great. Then you got to check out the #Storytime podcast. Each episode brings you the craziest, creepiest, and cringiest stories from YouTube, TikTok, Reddit, and beyond.
I'm gonna die. Chad could already be dead, or either he was smart and didn't come down anyways.
So at a quick glance, when I was turning off the light, I saw this thing in my kitchen, and it was kind of peeping out over to me.
Question is, name something that everyone knows the size of on their body.
Look, the internet is a dumpster full of stories, and I, your host, Will McFadden, dive in headfirst, sift through the flaming trash, and bring you nothing but treasures.
I was like, oh, right. That would be a really bad way to tell somebody that their brother died.
I swear this happened in slow motion. The champagne flute fell into the lap of Halle Berry, completely drenching her.
Listen to all 21 episodes of #Storytime now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Get 30% shorter average wait time. When you buy and book your appointment at DiscountTire.com, you can get 30% shorter average wait time in the store. Discount Tire. Let's get you taken care of.
Nice. She was a very nice lady. I don't think anything, at least I don't know, I didn't know her, but I don't think that anything happened that she did this maliciously. I think it happened because she was trying to keep the grandmother alive. She practiced, from what we can understand, a form of magic, Santeria. And when the grandmother was dying and she was going to lose her job, she was going to have to leave the country, and she didn't want to. So we think from what we've heard, that she practiced Santeria to try to keep the grandmother alive. Why we think that is because when the grandmother died, my mother-in-law and husband went up to the house to clean it. They were going to rent it out, and they found all over the house different strange symbols, melted candles, blood, different sayings, and and broken rosary beads. That was something they found all over.
Okay.
So from the experts that had came and we explained this to, they believe she practiced Santeria. Now, the night the grandmother died in the hospital, they came back that night. The housekeeper went to the house she lived in, and my mother-in-law went to their own house. And in the middle of the night, she called up screaming that she needed help. And so my husband and his cousin, Andy, who was down from up north for the grandmother being ill, ran up to the house to see what was going on. When they got there, she was coming out of the door, and there was an orb chasing her. It was like coming right at her. And my husband said they just stood there and watched it. And as she came out of the house, it went at her and then veered away and went up into the sky and just dissipated. But she ran down the street screaming till she got to my mother-in-law. And when she got to my mother-in-law's house, she told my mother-in-law how sorry she was. She said, I'm sorry, but don't go into that house ever again. Don't go into the house. There's something bad there now. So
wow.
Within 2 hours, someone came to pick her up, and my husband and Andy got her things from the house, and she left, and they never saw her again.
So your husband and his cousin witnessed some type of light or orb chasing her out of the house, literally?
Yes.
Wow. Did your husband seem frightened when he told you about the light chasing?
My husband, anything paranormal really scared him. When he told me about it, he didn't seem frightened. It was like a memory that really impressed him, that left a lasting impression on him.
Did they go back in the house after that happened?
They that night they just went back in to get her things because she had them all packed ready to go. So they took her things down to the house. But after that, it was like a couple weeks before they went in because of funeral arrangements and everything. So it was a few weeks before they went back into the house to clean it, to rent it out, and that's when they found all the paraphernalia.
So your husband, you obviously were not there, and your husband told you this. Did you think that there was something off about that?
I thought, well, geez, that was strange, I didn't. At the time, I never even heard of Santeria.
Okay. So what she was
I didn't
doing,
know what was going on. It just sounded kind of strange.
Right. Well, it sounds like she really didn't know what she was doing. I hate to say it like that, but wow, unbelievable. Okay, so I heard you said that the orb actually chased her out of the home. Did anything else or any other paranormal activity happen after that?
Well, they stayed away from the house for a while, so they weren't near that house. But he didn't. That was the thing he brought up and mentioned. Other than that, little things he said, like the radio turning on and off, little things, but nothing that made any impression on me.
Okay, so how much time passed between this event and the time you entered the picture?
She died in 1984, and Bill and I married in 1987. Beginning of 1987.
Okay. And
so there was like 3 years.
3 years. Okay. And how many homes exactly were on this property?
It's 2 to 3 lots, but there were 2 houses. My mother-in-law's house, then there was an empty lot, and then the grandmother's house.
I'm curious to know if there were any other homes near these homes.
There was another empty lot on the other side of the grandmother's house, and then another house. This was on a corner. So it was like this. An empty lot, my mother-in-law's house, an empty lot, the grandmother's house, an empty lot, another house.
All right. So now let's go to 1987 when you arrived.
Now my husband had a bad heart condition. So when we first got married, we decided to live with his mother and father. I absolutely adored his mother. She was a wonderful woman. So we the four of us lived together in the one house, and they rented out the house, the grandmother's house. Then my husband had a house.
Just to be clear, your house was the middle house, the one you lived in, correct?
Do you know what? I made a mistake. It was I forgot about his aunt's house.
Okay.
Here's how it went. It was an empty lot. My husband's aunt's house, then my mother-in-law's house, then an empty lot, then the grandmother's house.
Okay.
I forgot all about my husband's aunt's house. He inherited that house. She died before the grandmother died.
Okay.
And he inherited the house. He didn't live in the house. He rented it out.
Okay.
So when I came, we were going to rent the house out. So we rented it to a young man. My husband was a collector. He collected sports memorabilia. He had a very large collection. So he had one of the rooms in his house. He never lived in the house, but one of the rooms he had dedicated to his sports collection. He kept it locked. We rented out to this young man. It was like renting the room, but he had the run of the whole house because nobody lived there. It was just his bedroom, and then he could use the rest of the house. The only thing was he could not go into this one room, but it was locked anyway, so he shouldn't have been able to get into it.
And this is the house that the grandmother lived in, correct?
No, this is the aunt's house. See, that's where I
your
made
aunt's
a mistake.
house. Okay.
I forgot to tell you about it. One day, this is after we'd been married for like 3 or 4 months. Up until that time, nothing had happened, as quiet as could be. We went next door. My husband, the gentleman knew we would come in and out of the house to check on the sports collection. We came in the house. Everything was nice. The man was very neat, very clean. We went to the room. It was locked. He opened it. When we opened the door, all my husband's bobbleheads, he had a collection of sports bobbleheads of the teams.
Mm-hmm.
They were arranged on the floor in a gigantic triangle. Someone had taken them off the shelves and arranged them in the shape of a gigantic triangle on the floor.
Okay.
Well, of course, my husband thought this guy got into the room and he was messing around with his sports things. When I came in '87, this gentleman his name was Monty. He had already rented the grandmother's house and was living there.
Okay.
Now, his son didn't come till like 3 or 4 months after I arrived. So when I got there, it was just Monty there.
Tell me about the strange things that they saw the son when he moved into that home, some of the strange things that he was doing.
Oh, he when we first met him, he seemed like a very nice young man, quiet, but nice, he seemed normal. Then, like a few weeks later, after he was living there for a while, my mother-in-law was walking the dog by the house, and she looked, and he was planting in the backyard of this house trees. But he wasn't planting the trees normally. He had dug holes, and he planted the trees upside down.
Wow.
And when she went, she was going to confront him and say, what are you doing? She said, but when she went near him, he looked at her, and he just stared, and his eyes looked just black. And so she said, I'm not even going to confront him. She said she felt threatened. So she just kept right on going and never. She said she really didn't care. She didn't want to be bothered with it. She thought maybe he'd been on drugs or something, because you try to look for normal explanations for things. Your first thought isn't, oh, this is paranormal. Your first thought is, oh, maybe he has a mental problem, or maybe he is taking drugs. So that's where your mind goes first.
That's very true. Yeah, that's very, very true. And I wanted to ask you about the father of this guy had asked if someone had died in the home, correct?
Right. He asked my husband, he said, did somebody die here? And my husband told him, no, my grandmother died in the hospital. She didn't die here. Then he tried to explain to my husband that he had been using a Ouija board
Ride Tex Rail to and from Grape Fest all day for half price. Texas wine. Come and taste it at Grapevine's 35th Annual Grape Fest, a Texas wine experience presented by Bank of the West. September 16th through the 19th. Taste wines from Texas, South Australia's Barossa Valley, and Napa Valley. Enjoy live music from Berlin, Asia, and other artists, plus Champagne Terrace, Grape Stomp, carnival rides, and a dedication ceremony for the new Peace Circle sculpture. Ride Tex Rail to Grape Fest all day for half price. Visit grapefest.com for tickets today.
Get 30% shorter average wait time. When you buy and book your appointment at discounttire.com, you can get 30% shorter average wait time in the store. Discount Tire. Let's get you taken care of.
At Total Wine & More, expert guides like me can help you make the most of summer. If you're grilling burgers, add blue cheese and pair with Carbon Cabernet Reserve, rated 92 points.
Wondrous selection, expert guides, totally low prices. Total Wine & More.
Oh, no.
He said, and he had been speaking to someone in the house. But my husband didn't want to hear any of it. He said, well, that's your business. I don't really want to know about it. So he didn't give us any more information because my husband didn't want to know about it.
Did your husband tell him about what happened in the house?
No, my husband never discussed anything that went on in that house with anyone.
Now, the son that was behaving strangely, did you ever meet him?
I met him when he first moved in. And like I said, he seemed like a pleasant enough young man. He was about 20, 22 years old, quiet, but, it seemed quite normal.
When did you start to experience these strange events, and what exactly happened to you personally?
Well, like I said, with the triangle, that was the first one. But at the time, I told you, we didn't think it was paranormal. It was just something someone did. Then things started to happen that there were no explanation for. We started to get apports. Now, you must be very familiar with that word.
Yes, I am. When things move from one...
we started to get apports.
Right.
In my mother-in-law's bedroom, on her chest, where I told you she had the statues, where she used to pray every night before she went to bed. We started to get items that didn't belong to us. She'd wake up in the morning and they'd be on her chest. Things that she first said to us, "Are you guys putting this stuff on my chest? What's going on?" We said, "We have anything to do with it, Nobody in the house had touched any of the things on her chest because that was her little place where she prayed."
So things were moving from one place to the other.
Right. There was a pair of men's briefs on one of her statues. There were receipts, socks, all different things that finally we realized, because one of the receipts had the gentleman's name on it, we realized that we were getting things from his house, the house next door that we were renting, to the young man, not to the gentleman with his husband or his son, but the other side, in the aunt's house. We were getting things that belonged to him appearing up next to my mother-in-law's bed. And one of the items appeared there was a very nice watch. Now, we couldn't go down to the gentleman and say, "Oh, by the way, we have your watch at our house." How could you even approach that? So we thought, first of all, we were completely stymied. We had no idea what was going on. Then we decided, well, we better take the watch back because this is his. So we just took it back and put it in the house and hoped that he would think he just put it somewhere else and forgot it for a while. But that was really, like I said, the first thing was the triangle, but you could rationalize that. There was no rational answer for. Then we went down and over. Now, this was just over the light switches in the house. Everywhere there was a light switch, someone had taken, and it looked like with a crayon, and drew triangles with tails and other different strange symbols over every light switch in the house.
Oh, wow.
Now, we thought, this gentleman maybe has a problem, So we confronted him. "Why are you writing on the walls?" He said, "I didn't do that." He said, I've never written on your walls. Well, 2 days later, he tells us, this was on a Thursday, he said, "I'm going to be moving out." And by Sunday, he was gone. He never gave us the reason why he left. He just was gone. So now the house was empty. So we had to come up, go through it and clean it to re-rent it. Because, at the time, we didn't think anything bad was happening. It was just strange occurrences. So we went up to the house, actually down because it was down from the house. We went down there. I remember coming in. My husband went to the room with the sports memorabilia to check it out. I was in the living room just looking around, saying what had to be cleaned. And I looked up. In the living room, there was a shelf. It's a long living room. And the shelf towards the top of the ceiling runs the whole length of the living room. You'd have to get on a ladder to put things up on the shelf. And I looked up there and thought, oh, that needs to be dusted. And I just turned my eyes for a minute towards the other room. I looked back, and every single object that was on that shelf, there was a lot of knickknacks, was turned backwards in a blink of an eye. From the time it took me to move my head and move it back, everything was backwards. And I remember calling my husband out to see it, and he looked up, and when he saw them, they were backwards because that's where they were turned. And he said to me, you just didn't see it right to begin with. I mean, he didn't believe. He said, when you looked, you didn't see they were backwards to begin with. But I knew what I had seen, but I didn't want to, argue about it. So I said, okay, maybe, but that was right within a split second that happened.
What was going through your mind when you saw that? I mean, because had it been me, honestly, I probably would have burned rubber out of there.
But you know what? I didn't. I mean, at the time, I first looked, and then I thought, was he right? Did I see it like that to begin with? But I knew I didn't. I knew they had been switched in a flash. And so I would I remember just thinking, what's going on in this house? It didn't scare me because when you went into the house, when you were in the house at this time, there was no feeling of hostility or danger. It was just a nice house, average house, that some strange things were happening in. But that did escalate. We went home. A couple of days later, we came back with stuff to clean the house. We opened the front door, and some furniture from one room, I think it was dining room furniture, or was it a lamp? Some furniture from one room had been moved to the middle of the living room. I remember, that's right. There was another lamp sitting right in the middle of the floor. And my husband said, uh-oh, someone's been in the house. And he went and checked all the doors. Everything was locked. No one could have gotten in, but things had been moved from room to room.
So your husband at this time had no clue. He hadn't seen anything besides the orb chasing her out of the house at this point, right?
That was the only thing he had experienced.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
I said, what if something's in the house? I remember thinking at the time, something is going on here, Bill. And I remember saying to him, Bill, something's going on here. Nobody could have gotten in the house and moved this. So I remember saying, just talking out into the open, I remember saying, if someone's here, move something to let me know you're here. And nothing happened. So we went into the kitchen. A minute or two later, we came back out, and a dining room chair had been moved from the dining room to the middle of the living room floor. So at that time, my husband realized, something strange was going on. And for the next 10, 15 minutes, I remember it almost became like a game. It was a dangerous game. I didn't realize at the time, but it was a game because I wasn't frightened. And it was like, look what's happening. It's like, can you imagine saying to something, move something, and turning around and something's moved? I mean, it's like, at first you think, I can't believe this is happening. And then it's like, what's happening? It's like absolutely amazing.
I totally agree.
And it would move things. I would say, I'm going to go in the kitchen, move. I'd point to something and say, move that. I'd come back in, it'd be moved to a different spot. So it was something there that understood me and communicated by moving things. My husband at this time was ready to go. He said, I'm not staying in the house. We have to go. I can't stay here.
Now, I'm curious to know, did the father and son living still in that other home, did they ever tell you about any other disturbances that they were experiencing there?
No. The only thing that he ever brought up was that he spoke to someone on a Ouija board.
Did that not concern you at all? Because it sounds like he may have opened up something even worse in that home.
Now that when we think about it, we went back and understood what was going on. Yes, but at the time, it was like I didn't even know. I understood what a Ouija board was, but I thought it was a toy. I didn't realize it really did things. It wasn't like now when there's so many things about paranormal on TV and movies that you have more of an education about the paranormal and you understand things more. Back then in the 80s, I mean, when you talked about a Ouija board, it was a toy. It wasn't something that really opened up communications to another realm.
Right.
So when he said he talked to someone on a Ouija board, my husband, didn't want anything to know about it, but to me, it just didn't mean anything.
Ride Tex Rail to and from Grape Fest all day for half price. Texas wine. Come and taste it at Grapevine's 35th Annual Grape Fest, a Texas wine experience presented by Bank of the West. September 16th through the 19th. Taste wines from Texas, South Australia's Barossa Valley, and Napa Valley. Enjoy live music from Berlin, Asia, and other artists, plus Champagne Terrace, Grape Stomp, carnival rides, and a dedication ceremony for the new Peace Circle sculpture. Ride Tex Rail to Grape Fest all day for half price. Visit grapefest.com for tickets today.
Hey, do you love a good story? Great. Then you got to check out the #Storytime podcast. Each episode brings you the craziest, creepiest, and cringiest stories from YouTube, TikTok, Reddit, and beyond.
I'm going to die. Chad could already be dead, or either he was smart and didn't come down anyways.
So at a quick glance, when I was turning off the light, I saw this thing in my kitchen, and it was kind of peeping out over to me.
Question is, name something that everyone knows the size of on their body.
Look, the internet is a dumpster full of stories, and I, your host, Will McFadden, dive in headfirst, sift through the flaming trash, and bring you nothing but treasures.
I was like, oh, right. That would be a really bad way to tell somebody that their brother died.
I swear this happened in slow motion. The champagne flute fell into the lap of Halle Berry, completely drenching her.
Listen to all 21 episodes of #Storytime now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Labor Day event's here at Gap Factory and GapFactory.com. Shop 40 to 70% off almost everything. Plus, tanks from $5, shorts from $10, and jeans from $20 through September 7th at Gap Factory and GapFactory.com.
Deborah, I have to say that just your mindset at this point in time is amazing, because a lot of people have been absolutely frightened and would probably leave at that time because you, with your own eyes, saw something move like a chair, an object as big as a chair just appear out of nowhere on command. That is amazing.
To me, it wasn't frightening. To me, it was like my mind said, this is something going on. I have to understand it. I have to know what's going on. I'm not frightened of it.
Did you try or think about or talk about trying to consult with someone to get some help or try to find out what was going on at this point?
Well, like I said, it wasn't threatening at that time. We didn't think it was anything, to worry about, that it wasn't harming us in any way. And then things started to happen because no one was living in that house. Things started to happen in the house we were living in. Not threatening things, just things moving around. See, I like to turn things backwards. You'd go look, all the pictures would be backwards. So my mother-in-law was, like my husband, petrified of this kind of things. She became very frightened of what was going on. My husband was frightened. But I would say to her, well, let's try to find someone that understands this. She would say, no, people will think we're nuts. I don't want anything to do with people knowing this is going on. She just she wanted to keep it private. She wouldn't let us talk to anybody at that time about what was going on.
We are at the point now where you have just commanded this entity to make something appear or move or whatnot, and the chair just appears out of nowhere. Let's pick it up from there.
It actually doesn't appear out of nowhere. It never did anything. Very few things it did a few times, but most of the time is when you either moved your eyes or turned your back for a second, and then it would be there. You didn't actually, the chair appeared. It would be like you closed your eyes or
okay.
To another,
so you wouldn't actually see it happen. You would turn your head, and then it would be there.
Right. Only a couple times did I actually witness things in movement. Most of the time, it just appeared when you didn't look for a second.
Okay. All right.
So like I said, it would make the things move in the house on command. My husband wouldn't stay in the house. He said, let's leave. He couldn't be there. He was too frightened. So we left. We didn't go back to the house for a while. Things started happening in the house we were in. Things I told you, moving, things. My mother-in-law and husband at this time were very nervous about it. Then everything kind of stopped. I mean, everything kind of calmed down. It was like waiting. You got a feeling like something was just sitting back waiting, but nothing bad was happening. So my husband decided, okay, everything seems to have stopped. Let's rent the house out again. So we rented it out to a couple, and an older gentleman and a younger woman. And her name was Michelle. I can't remember his name at the moment. But they were nice. I used to see them. They used to come out of the house, and I would talk to Michelle periodically. And then I started to notice that Michelle wasn't around. And then one time I saw her out kind of hiding, and I said, "What's in the bushes?" I said, "Michelle, what's going on? Are you all right?" And she said that since they moved into this house, her boyfriend had changed. He'd become kind of mean and hostile, and he started hitting her. So I told her, you have to get away from him. Go, just leave, or I'll take you to some place where it's safe. She said, "No, don't worry about me. I can take care of myself."
Okay.
Well, then all of a sudden, she was completely gone. 2 weeks went by. I didn't see her. And I saw the gentleman, her boyfriend, out in the yard. And I said, "Where's Michelle?" He said, "Oh, Michelle left. She's gone." And I was going to ask him more about it, but he had this kind of presence about him. It was like, the conversation's done. Don't bother me anymore.
Okay.
So I
how much
just
time?
let him go.
Okay. How much time passed before you talked to this young lady and she started saying they were having some issues? How long did they live there at that point?
Probably a month and a half.
All right. So she leaves. You haven't seen her anymore, correct?
Right.
All right. So then what happens?
Then he said he's leaving. So we said fine. We went and checked the house after he left, and it was spotless. I mean, he had cleaned, bleached, the house was perfect. We were going to rent it out again, but we decided to wait a little while. I went out while I was working in the yard one day, and next door I heard someone knocking at the door. And I went over and said, "Hey, they left. There's nobody living here now." He said, "Do you know where he went?" I said, "No, I don't." He said, "Well, you heard what happened to Michelle." Excuse me. I said, "No, I haven't heard about Michelle." He said they found Michelle beaten to death and rolled in a rug in a landfill.
Wow.
And I said, I didn't hear anything about it. I didn't know what was going on. And then in my mind flashed, how she had told me he was mean to her and beating her. And I thought, oh my goodness, did he do this? Did something happen here? So I remember going back and telling my mother-in-law and my husband what he said. And I had never read anything about it in a newspaper or anything. So I don't know if it was actually true. And my husband, he read 3 newspapers a day, news. He said, "I never heard anything about it. So I don't think it really happened. But I don't know if it happened or not, because it didn't have to happen in our city. It could have been they found her someplace else. So I can't tell you that she really was murdered, because I don't know if that was real or not. It's just what the gentleman told me."
Yes, but didn't you say something about the rug was missing from your home, correct?
Oh, yeah. The only thing missing from the house was, like I said, was in perfect shape, but the one rug, a throw rug, was missing. I think that was the thing that upset me the most, because I thought, is this the rug she was wrapped in?
Well, I'm trying to understand your state of mind here, okay? Because most people would have at least tried to maybe call the police and try to see, hey, this couple lived at my home. I heard that something happened to one of our tenants. I need to report this.
I would have. If it was up to me, that's what I have done. Now, my mother-in-law's family was involved with the mafia. So my mother-in-law wanted nothing to do with the police. That was one of the problems. She would have nothing to do with the police. So when I suggested we call the police and just ask what was going on, she would have nothing to do with them. She had been taught since she was a child, you don't get involved with the police. So I wasn't allowed to ask. I wasn't, it was just a drop subject.
Okay, so what did you decide to do after this guy moved out of the house?
We decided not to rent the house anymore. Even if it was not true or was true, it was like maybe something's going on in that house that we shouldn't expose people to.
Was your husband thinking that something was very wrong in that home?
Yes.
Okay.
He was afraid of this house. He wanted nothing to do with the house. And during this time, because of all these things going on, and not just because of that, but because we had decided to stay together, the four of us live together, we were going to sell the houses, all the houses there, and move to a bigger house in the upper Ranch Cucamonga, which we did. Two reasons. One was we were going to move anyway, but with this stuff going on, I think it expedited the matter. I think my mother-in-law wanted to go quicker. So we decided to move. So why rent out the house when we were going to be moving anyway? That was my husband, but my husband wasn't going to rent it out anyway because he just didn't know what was going on and he didn't want to expose any more people to it.
Okay. All right. So let's go back to the home where the father and son lived. What was happening there during this time?
During this time, it was, like I said, other than the son being very strange and walking around the property and doing strange things, it was quiet. But then Monty died. Okay. And Monty passed away, and we told the son he had to leave. I remember Bill went up and told him, and he said that man has something wrong with him. There's something strange with this man. But his mother came and got him, and he was gone like within a week's time. So now both houses on either side of us are empty.
I'm wondering if you ever had any conversations with his son prior to him moving out after his father passed.
The only time I ever spoke to the young man was when he was moving in. Other than that, I never spoke to him.
Okay. All right. So I'm trying to see if his personality changed and was very noticeable to anyone in your family.
I really didn't have enough evidence to base anything on. I didn't really know him before, and I didn't know him after. It was just like I saw him once in a while. The only one that really came into contact with him a few times was my mother-in-law, and she didn't want anything to do with him. She thought something was wrong with him. So,
well, it's pretty scary to know that someone that at first you think is very normal, and then you walk by the house and you look back there and he's planting trees upside down.
But that is so bizarre.
That's wicked. That's wicked scary right there.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So eventually you decided to move, correct?
We found a house in El Paloma, that's upper Ranch Cucamonga, bought the house and put the houses on the corner and the lots for sale. We had them for sale. During this time, we moved slowly because we had both houses. There was no hurry to move. We started taking things up to the new house and taking furniture and things. And during this time, everything stopped again. Nothing was happening. Everything was quiet. But it was a different kind of quiet. It was almost like you were waiting for something to happen. You were waiting for the other shoe to drop, that type of feeling. The last day we were down there, it was just my mother-in-law and myself, and this was during the daytime. My mother-in-law and I were going through the house to make sure we had everything we needed. We had like one last box in her bedroom. We went in to get the box, her and I, and we heard from the kitchen. It almost sounded like an explosion. It was like cracking and wood breaking. And so, we both rushed to the kitchen, and all the cupboards in the kitchen, the wooden cupboards, had been ripped off. It was like someone just took them and ripped them off the walls. And all over the floor was the wooden pieces of the cupboards. And we were both in shock. We didn't know what happened. Then we heard like glass exploding when we ran back to the bedroom, and all the windows in the bedroom had been blown out. It wasn't like someone threw something at a window and the glass was in the room. It was outward. And I remember for some reason, Becky bending over and picking up that last box and grabbing my mother-in-law by the arm, and we both ran out of the house to the car.
Now, was your husband there during this time?
No, that was just my mother-in-law and myself. We were doing like a final walk through the house to see was there anything else we forgot that we had to take. And my mother-in-law was almost in shock. She was scared to death, shaking.
Unbelievable. Yeah. This entity was starting to show some very violent poltergeist activity.
It was starting to show its true colors, what it could do. Up until that time, to me, it had been, like I said, it was almost like a game. Look, I can move this. Look, I can do this. I can make things, it was like magic, But now it became that hostility, that anger was manifesting.
Well, it sounds like at first it may have been trying to lure you in, captivate you, and you were trying to move out, so it clearly was not very happy about that.
No, it wasn't. We moved up to the new house, and at first, like say for the first two or 3 weeks, everything was quiet as could be. Now, during this time, like I said, we were selling the property down at on Arrow. And my mother, when she came up here, she was rather depressed, kind of sad, moving, all this and everything. And she was a real gardener. She down at the old place where we lived, she had all kinds of flowers, and they were beautiful. So she wanted to go down to the old house and get the flowers and things and bring them up to the new house and plant them. And she was afraid to go down. So I remember I said, well, I'll go with you, because she wouldn't go in the house. She would not go in the house. But I said, well, come on, we can go down. It's daytime. It's in the middle of the day. It's a busy street. We won't go in the house. We'll just dig up the plants, put them in the car, and come back to the house. So she said she agreed to it. So we went down to the old house, and she was on the side of the house digging up a plant. I was a little bit towards the back. They had a shed there with it was a wooden shed, but it had like a plastic roof. And I was back there looking at the different plants there. And I turned and I looked at my mother-in-law, and she kind of gave a little cry of pain. And as I saw that, her body actually kind of lifted, like someone had kicked her very hard. And I remember rushing over to her, and she said, someone just kicked me. And I remember I looked at her, she looked at me, and as we stood there, it started, it's like it almost started to rain, like little stones, little pebbles.
Wow.
And she and I ran to the little shed, because she wasn't going to go in the house. We went to the little shed, and I remember standing in the little shed and hearing the stones hitting the roof. Now, it seemed like for eternity, but it wasn't less than a minute, probably. And then it stopped, and I came out, and I looked on the ground, and I could see all these stones. And I remember bending over and picking one up, and it was ice cold. But it was a stone. It wasn't ice. It wasn't like it was hail. It was a stone. And that was the last time we were ever down at she was ever down at that property. We got in the car for the little flowers that she had already packed away, and she never went back there again.
Now, you did mention the symbol that was painted on the little light switches there. Did you do any research and find out what those were exactly?
No. At that time, we didn't. We didn't have it. It wasn't like now with the computers, you can look things up and things, you accessed everything. No, there was really no way I could look it up, and I didn't even think about it at the time, because they didn't mean anything to me. They were just scribbles on a wall. They didn't mean anything. It was just a triangle with a little tail. I didn't know it had a meaning. So when we moved up to the new house, now we'd been here about 3 weeks. And during the 3 weeks, other than going back down to the house with the rocks, raining rocks on us, everything had been quiet as could be. So we thought, oh, we escaped. It stayed down there. We're away from it now. We're safe. My husband, mother-in-law were just starting to relax a little bit. Then a picture upstairs in my mother-in-law's sitting room. Upstairs was a bedroom, a bathroom, and like a large sitting room. A picture turned backwards. Now, when she saw that, when actually it was my father-in-law saw that, we knew it had come with us. We knew it was with us now, but it still was very low profile. It was just moving things a little bit again. Then to me, this was even stranger than a porch started to happen. I was downstairs. We had the master bedroom downstairs at the other end of the house. It's a pretty big house. And my mother-in-law was upstairs, and she was cleaning her bedroom, making the bed. She went in her bathroom to put clean towels in. She looked up at the mirror, and on the mirror there was writing. And I remember her yelling for me, and I thought, oh my goodness, what happened? And I ran upstairs, and someone had written on the mirror in soap. It was actually soap from the soap that was sitting there. And I'm trying to remember what it said the first time, but it was Lee or talk to me. That's what it was. Talk to me was written on the mirror. Talk to me.
Wow.
And she said, I was up here by myself. She said, no one went into that room. I'm up here alone. She said, it was clean. I was just in the bathroom cleaning. I came back in, and this is written on the mirror.
All right, so that's going to do it for part 1. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to pick up with part 2 on our next edition. To find out more about our guest and all others, please visit our website at mysteriousradio.com. And I want to give special thanks to our co-creator and executive producer, Kim Kyle, who brought this show to you today. And working hard behind the scenes, our team of 4, I want to thank them as well. Follow us on social media and share the show with others that may like the subjects that we cover. I am your host, K-Town, and you're listening to Mysterious Radio.
Hey, do you love a good story? Great. Then you got to check out the #Storytime podcast. Each episode brings you the craziest, creepiest, and cringiest stories from YouTube, TikTok, Reddit, and beyond.
I'm gonna die. Chad could already be dead, or either he was smart and didn't come down anyways.
So at a quick glance, when I was turning off the light, I saw this thing in my kitchen, and it was kind of peeping out over to me.
Question is, name something that everyone knows the size of on their body.
Look, the internet is a dumpster full of stories, and I, your host, Will McFadden, dive in headfirst, sift through the flaming trash, and bring you nothing but treasures.
I was like, oh, right. That would be a really bad way to tell somebody that their brother died.
I swear this happened in slow motion. The champagne flute fell into the lap of Halle Berry, completely drenching her.
Listen to all 21 episodes of #Storytime now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Hey, do you love a good story? Great. Then you got to check out the #Storytime podcast. Each episode brings you the craziest, creepiest, and cringiest stories from YouTube, TikTok, Reddit, and beyond.
I'm gonna die. Chad could already be dead, or either he was smart and didn't come down anyways.
So at a quick glance, when I was turning off the light, I saw this thing in my kitchen, and it was kind of peeping out over to me.
Question is, name something that everyone knows the size of on their body.
Look, the internet is a dumpster full of stories, and I, your host, Will McFadden, dive in headfirst, sift through the flaming trash, and bring you nothing but treasures.
I was like, oh, right. That would be a really bad way to tell somebody that their brother died.
I swear this happened in slow motion. The champagne flute fell into the lap of Halle Berry, completely drenching her.
Listen to all 21 episodes of #Storytime now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Hey, do you love a good story? Great. Then you got to check out the #Storytime podcast. Each episode brings you the craziest, creepiest, and cringiest stories from YouTube, TikTok, Reddit, and beyond.
I'm gonna die. Chad could already be dead, or either he was smart and didn't come down anyways.
So at a quick glance, when I was turning off the light, I saw this thing in my kitchen, and it was kind of peeping out over to me.
Question is, name something that everyone knows the size of on their body.
Look, the internet is a dumpster full of stories, and I, your host, Will McFadden, dive in headfirst, sift through the flaming trash, and bring you nothing but treasures.
I was like, oh, right. That would be a really bad way to tell somebody that their brother died.
I swear this happened in slow motion. The champagne flute fell into the lap of Halle Berry, completely drenching her.
Listen to all 21 episodes of #Storytime now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
So, what are you sipping? Whether it's our freshly ground coffee to wake you up, or an icy Polar Pop cup or Froster to keep you going, our new Sip and Save drink subscription at Circle K will keep you refreshed every day. Join Circle K's Sip and Save and grab any size drink every day for just $5.99 a month. Yeah! Start sipping and saving today. Just sign up with your mobile number when you check out at Circle K.
Limited time offer at participating locations.
Are you ready to earn $17 to $19 an hour with the potential to earn a $1,000 bonus through January 2022? The Container Store is now hiring full-time for their distribution center near DFW Airport. Join an amazing team with benefits including medical, dental, PTO, a generous employee discount, and 401k. If retail's more your pace, we're also hiring full and part-time for our stores. Competitive rates and benefits. Make space for opportunity and a career you can love. Apply today at containerstore.com/careers. The average organization uses 110 SaaS apps. How do you manage your rapidly growing SaaS environment? Thousands of IT customers use Better Cloud to automate processes and policies across their cloud app portfolio. With 88 five-star reviews on G2, Better Cloud is the most reviewed and beloved SaaS management platform used by IT departments to centralize the administration of their most common apps. Visit bettercloud.com to learn more.
Ride Tex Rail to and from Grape Fest all day for half price. Texas wine. Come and taste it at Grapevine's 35th Annual Grape Fest, a Texas wine experience presented by Bank of the West, September 16th through the 19th. Ride Tex Rail to Grape Fest all day for half price. Visit grapefest.com for tickets today.
Wake up to Wendy's and get a bacon or sausage, egg, and Swiss breakfast croissant for just $1.99. Made with fresh cracked eggs and served on a hot buttery croissant that's fluffy enough to sleep on. It's time to wakey. Hit the Wendy's drive-thru and get your bacon or sausage, egg, and Swiss breakfast croissant for just $1.99. That's a better breakfast for just $1.99. Only at Wendy's. We got you.
Limited time only. U.S. price and participation may vary. Third-party delivery prices may vary. Not valid in the combo.
Ever feel like you've looked through every car shopping website, but still haven't found the car you really want and don't know what's actually a good deal? That's where Car Gurus comes in handy. Car Gurus gives every car a deal rating from great to overpriced using an impartial, unbiased algorithm. Plus, they have millions of cars to choose from. The best part? With Car Gurus, you can see key details, find financing, and shop from cars that can be delivered all from home. Ready to find a great deal on the car for you? Grab your phone and head to cargurus.com.